Popcorn Junkies! We've all just woken up because we were fast asleep.
Yes. Yay.
And what are we reviewing?
Doctor Sleep!
Doctor Sleep, the new film, which is essentially being touted and is kind of most notorious for being the follow-up to The Shining. Yeah. A follow-up book written by Stephen King, starring Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, who we like from The Greatest Showman.
Yeah, Life. She was in Life.
She was in Life, that's
okay,
right.
Yeah.
And a cameo, or a small part, but very crucially supporting part, by Zahn McClarnon, who's the Native American Indian guy who was in Fargo, I believe, as well.
Yeah,
he was very good, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And it's directed by Mike Flanagan, who did the Ouija films and Ouija board films. But he was also responsible.
They were bad.
Hey,
they were bad.
Yeah, and he was also the creative force behind The Haunting of Hill House, that Netflix series.
The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, based on the Shirley Jackson. A film that's a follow-up to a film as emblematic as The Shining has got a lot to live up to, hasn't
exactly.
it? And I think probably my feelings going into this were just extremely nervous because I thought The Shining is such a classic. It's such a sophisticated, of its time, immersive, unnerving film.
Yeah.
Are you fans of The Shining?
Oh my God,
Absolutely.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite classics.
What's your take on The Shining?
We
For
were
your
nervous.
generation, what was The Shining when it came out?
I loved it. I love all horror films,
Yeah.
but it's on the edge of scaring me all the time, The Shining.
It's weird because I never think of Shining as like a scary film. I feel like it's more of an eerie kind of...
It's an unnerving film.
Sort of
It's an unsettling, unnerving film. But just take us back to when The Shining came out.
Yes.
What was it like at the time? Was it a big deal?
Yes.
In what way?
I suppose in the site there were films coming out at the time like Halloween, The Evil Dead. That there were sort of those type of horror films, but I suppose The Shining scared me because it's psychological horror. It's what's happening to the main character.
Yeah.
I mean, one could say it's all going on in his head.
Yes.
One could say.
Yeah.
And because Jack Nicholson embodied that so brilliantly.
Yeah.
I mean, I always found the ballroom scenes the most scary of all.
In The Shining.
Yeah.
What, in the original Shining?
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I think the thing that I love about The Shining, and we're talking about The Shining at length because this is a follow-up to The Shining.
Yeah.
And it pays a lot of kind of homage to it, and we
does.
revisit the same hotel, we revisit some of the same shots, same sequences. The characters in this film move through this. They redo. Yeah, they don't lift shots from the original film. They actually restage them. But this is so basically Ewan McGregor is the grown-up boy from the original film, and he is essentially
Danny Torrance,
and he's an alcoholic.
Yay.
And this is
Really
as much a
bad
film about alcoholism as it is about anything else, really, isn't it? He's an alcoholic, and
so was The Shining, though. Because, well, Jack Nicholson's character is in recovery.
Yeah.
And all of the ballroom scenes are him kind of not wanting to drink, but then he ends up drinking.
It's funny because one often thinks of The Shining and the whole sort of, if you like, the universe of this as sort of supernatural. And for me, the original film never really was, like you say, supernatural. I mean, weird things happen, but it's supernatural in the sense of it's visions in his head, or is it visions in his head? But so this starts with Ewan McGregor. I mean, I have to confess, what are your feelings on Ewan McGregor? I was kind of bated breath with Ewan McGregor, waiting for him to open his mouth.
Yeah, no, I really like him, but at the same time, I do know that some films he almost loses interest in the parts.
Yeah, he seems bored.
He gives it a very average performance, but when he's good, he can be really good.
I think he needs strong direction.
Yeah,
I think when he's good.
I was a bit worried about him at first.
Yes.
Just because, not necessarily because his performance was bad, but just because I really wanted him to be good.
Yes.
It's like, are you doing it? But
quite early on, we established the fact of the original. They use actors to stand in for original characters from the original film. So you had him as a boy, didn't you?
Yes.
And this whole technique of seeing the dead, I got really worried at the beginning, thinking this is going to be a bit pants if we're just going to keep being in rooms with dead people coming through and
because you didn't like that first scene with him and the guy, the black guy. But I thought that was really...
No, I didn't. I didn't like the beginning. So the beginning really kind of annoyed me. I was like, oh God, this is going to be a bit obvious if we're just going to see dead people everywhere.
Yeah, but you had to have that, I felt.
No, you have to have it. Yeah. But I mean, I just thought this was an obvious trope. But then in a weird way, they sort of got rid of it.
I had full confidence that they would. I thought they were just sort of explaining the background, really.
That's weird. I thought it worked.
Yeah, I did.
Well, the premise of this...
the reason it's called Doctor Sleep
Yeah.
is because Ewan McGregor's character eventually becomes sober and he gets his job as a doctor in a hospital. He doesn't really know why he's there, he kind of cleans up and stuff. And then it's like one shift where like the cat in the hospital goes onto one of the
That cat
hospital
was
beds.
amazing.
Yeah, the cat. goes onto one of the hospital beds, and apparently when the cat does that, it means it's time for the person
Someone
to
to
go.
die.
Yeah, and it was this old man. It was such a lovely scene. I loved all of these scenes actually.
Yes.
Where Ewan McGregor
Yeah,
sat next to these people that were about to die and kind of comforted them before they died because they were all kind of scared.
Yeah.
But the reason he's called Dr. Sleep was because of that first scene where he's sitting with the gut man. And he's saying, look, it's just like sleeping, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And like the guy says, like, thank you, Dr. Sleep. I'm
Yeah.
you, Dr. Sleep. Something
Yeah.
like that. So that's what it's called.
Yes.
But that's not really what.
But you see,
the
for
film's
me,
about.
that's where the film really properly started
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
Once he was in recovery, you had this preamble where you establish. I mean, they established all these very, very convoluted. There were many different threads to the story.
Yeah, I mean, the
You
very
had-
start was with Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah. So you had Rebecca
that's
Ferguson,
right,
who's
yeah.
this strange character who woos this
Almost
child.
with no explanation.
With no
at all,
explanation,
yeah.
she sucks the life out of them. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and so you've got this band of sort of travellers, sort of hippies, sort of
hats.
malevolent hippies,
Yeah.
with sort of like Fleetwood
Top
Mac
hats.
outfits on and
Yeah.
shit like that, breathing life. And I like that as a concept, breathing life out of virile young children.
Yeah.
Virile's probably
Putting
not the
it
right
into-
word, but you know, yeah, and capturing it,
Yeah.
and then using it to seek immortality.
Yeah.
I mean, on paper, that's a ludicrous plot device.
Yeah.
But I felt that
And
Rebecca.
at first it was.
Well, and it absolutely was. But I have to say, I thought Rebecca Ferguson was remarkable.
She was very good.
I thought-
Yeah, like I said, I think it was because she properly committed to the character.
She
Totally
did.
right.
So it really worked, because if she kind of went at the character
Half-baked.
half-hearted and like didn't give it, like
Yeah.
wasn't 100% confident with
It was
the
her
performance.
conviction that made
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, then that whole little kind of
Yes.
storyline bit would have really.
And
Yeah.
because it's quite an extended scene, that first
It
scene,
is.
where we're introduced to her and what they can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And she is so committed.
Yeah, she
It-
also looks so ridiculous.
They're
But she
like-
managed to make it not look
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
she
absolutely
did,
right. I mean,
she
it
did.
was a real credit to her that she
Yeah.
brought real sort of gravitas to it. They were essentially vaping vampires, weren't they? They were sort
In a
of
way.
vaping the life out of young people
called it steam.
in order to
Yeah,
steam to
yeah.
sustain themselves.
Yeah.
They only take from people
Oh,
that
did
have
they?
The Shining. That's why
Ah.
they take from the girl.
And so,
Ewan
what is The
McGregor.
Shining? The Shining is the ability to what?
Like put your voice in other people's head.
Yeah.
That's right.
The Shining is the ability.
Is the skill?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
all the stuff that they.
And that's where you have the young adolescent girl
In
in her
this one.
home who's living with her family.
Yeah.
She can shine. And so she starts to connect with
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor's character
Yeah.
once he's kind of got clean and sober.
Yeah.
And she can then start to alert him to the fact that sort of evil Rebecca Ferguson is kind of entering and trying to get her and sort of is hoovering people up.
Yeah.
That's right. She sort of calls him for help, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She sort of
Yeah.
dials him in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
does.
So at this point, in just describing it, incredibly convoluted.
Yeah.
Lots of plot lines going along.
Yeah.
Not necessarily confusing, but in the describing, a little bit ludicrous.
Well, I thought.
In the way that The Shining originally wasn't
no,
ludicrous.
no.
That's why I think the director was good, because
Yeah.
it could have just been really confusing.
It could have imploded quite quickly.
I know if I was a director and I looked at a script and had all that, I'd be like,
Yeah.
what the hell
Yeah.
have I
Yeah.
signed up to? But you managed to. I didn't find it confusing at all.
About half an hour in, I thought there were too many different stories.
Well, you
going
said that,
on.
you muttered it almost as
Yeah,
good God,
yeah.
there are so many
It's,
bloody threads.
And,
Yeah.
and also, they're all sort of horror conventions. So in a
Yes.
sense, I felt like
Never
they were,
breathe.
yeah, they were trying to sort of deal with too many.
They were ticking too many horror tropes.
Yeah.
Was that what you
Yeah, I
felt?
wanted to
Tropes,
say
exactly.
this film had probably one of the most brutal child murder scenes I've
Yeah,
ever seen.
that's true.
I
Oh.
wasn't expecting that at all in this film.
Yeah, with the boy from why did we
The
recognise?
Room.
The
Oh,
Room.
from The Room.
And
yes.
Wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I must admit, I wasn't convinced they were going to go there, but they went there.
Well, yeah, they
They
just
did, yeah.
proper murdered him. Because if you think about it, when kids die in like horror films and all of that,
Usually happens
they
off
just
camera.
get dragged off into the
Yeah,
dark,
yeah, yeah,
and
it's
that's
very
about it. But they fully just opened him up.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was quite shocked that this managed to hit the 15 certificate.
Yeah.
I think by
It was
then they were
really-
desperate, weren't they, for their sustenance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
They
then
sort of-
once he died, they were still like pushing
Yeah.
it out of his lungs, and that's when the girl realised who they were. She like looks in on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
you had lots of
felt
sort of almost distant healing. I mean, you had her being this idea that you could travel around and you could move. You know, she could move into the head. There was a really powerful scene I thought where she moved into the head of Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
And Rebecca Ferguson was aware of it when she was in the supermarket, and then she was looking into the freezer
That was a great
glass,
scene,
and there was a
yeah.
reflection of the girl, and she saw
That
the
was
girl,
fun.
and then she. So I mean, it's a film absolutely littered with some fabulous set pieces,
Yeah.
I thought. I mean, one of those was even Ewan McGregor's room. I mean, there was that there were lots of sort of dreamlike
the first,
sequences.
like, proper scare.
Yeah, to describe that scare.
It's like in the bed and there's this arm like around him.
Oh,
and it was this
you
dead
can see
arm.
flies.
Yeah, and I thought it
yeah,
was going to
yeah,
be the old lady from the bar
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and it's the woman that he left with the sick on the bed.
Yes.
And she's talking, there's this fly like going in her
Yes.
eyeball, and then her baby turns around and
Yeah.
Mama. I was like,
Yeah.
It was really, really eerie. I mean, I
It
thought it did a
was.
good job of reigniting sort of otherwise normal scenes with really quite creepy stuff.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Because I mean, I think one of the creepiest things I remember as a young boy with The Shining was the naked old woman or the corpse-like
Yeah.
woman in
well,
the...
she's, at first she's like a beautiful woman.
Yeah,
isn't she?
beautiful, and then she
starts
becomes this sort
Yeah,
of rotting
yeah.
thing. So I liked all of that. I thought...
However, I think they overused her.
Yes, I think they overused the old woman in the
Every
bath.
time there was a bathroom
Yeah.
in the background,
There
she
was
was in there.
some old
Yeah.
bint in there pulling the curtain back.
Yeah, but that's by the end of the film, isn't it? We think.
Well, no,
about
it's
it.
happening
it
hundreds of times.
happened
He
on
goes
fire.
in,
Yeah,
when they
yeah.
flash back to him as a boy, he goes in several
Yeah,
times,
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
he? And
yeah.
It's too much.
It
It's
was
like,
too
she's
much.
not scaring me anymore.
They were quite bold in that there were many flashbacks where they had a new actress playing the Shelley Duvall character.
Yeah.
They had an
I
actor
thought it was
playing Jack
brilliant.
Nicholson.
She sounded just like Shelley.
She did.
Like,
She looked like her too.
How did we
in many
feel
ways.
about that, using new actors to play the original actors playing the parts from the original film? Did
I
that
quite
jar?
liked it because usually I would be like, because I usually pick someone that's nothing like.
Yes.
But I thought
Yeah.
that these were really accurate.
I thought they were.
I
really
bought
Because
into
although-
it. I
yeah,
bought
Because
into
although
it.
Yeah,
the
it was,
actors kind of,
Yes.
everybody really
They
committed
gave
to
it
their
their
roles
all.
in this film, so it kind
Yeah.
Yeah.
of, it didn't matter. And the guy that played Jack Nicholson from the side looked. I thought
Well,
it
you
was. I
thought
thought
it
they'd
was,
like
didn't
done
you? Yeah.
CGI.
Yeah.
CGI actors
Yeah,
when they're young.
youthification or
That was
something.
I was
Very-
like.
That was very clever because they only filmed him from the side for a long time, and it could easily have been Jack
Yeah,
Nicholson,
it really
couldn't it?
did.
Although.
Other little set pieces that I thought were absolutely wonderful. I thought the scene that you just described where he was working in the old people's home and the cat would go from room to room.
Yeah.
There were some really magically tender scenes where he was
Yeah.
sitting with old
Because
people
you know,
dying.
you don't usually get that kind of
No.
those kind of scenes.
And I thought he
in
was
horror
brilliant
film.
in those scenes, Ewan McGregor. He's
Yeah.
in a big fat close-up just looking at
Yeah.
them.
No, I quite like the journey that we had for Ewan to reach the point that he reached with the room.
Yeah.
In the sense of getting off a bus, meeting somebody who said, you know, you look a bit rough, and then
I thought it was well done and I liked it.
Yeah,
but
I
like
thought
Dan
it
said,
was
I
well
thought it was a bit cliche. Like it was very
Mm.
easy for him to just. Well, I'm not saying it's easy for him to get sober. That sounds a bit rude. But like you know how it just skipped to 8 years later. I was just a bit like this feels a bit like it feels a bit lazy. It feels like
Yes.
you've just rushed him getting sober.
What did we think of the band of hippies, the sort of
I thought they
vaping
were-
vampires? I thought they were great.
Yeah.
I
thought
really
they were
like the
really-
tall, odd-looking one, and they're
I liked
Scary as
the young
anything.
girl that they get as well. The one that like.
Oh,
yes,
yes,
oh
it's an
yeah, the
extended
scene with her in the
scene, yes.
so she was sort of, they found her, didn't they, in a
Yeah.
cinema when she was
I was
wooing
really
men.
surprised because she's in a Netflix original film called Babysitter, which I
Oh,
watched.
is
She's
she?
like Kiki's age in it.
Right.
And that literally came out last year, and I was
Wow.
like, how was she suddenly a grown woman?
Yeah.
It reminded me of films like The Lost Boys and stuff
Yeah.
like that, where they were looking for people to put into their group
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
vampires.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the vampire thing was very, very evident, I felt. It felt vampiric.
Yeah.
But you drew a really interesting analogy, I thought, between their really addictive behaviour around
Yeah.
the corpse of the boy from Wonder.
Yeah, it was an analogy I felt to crack cocaine or to
Meth. Yeah,
meth
yeah, yeah.
specifically, in the sense of, you know, all of them together and desperate and getting the whole
And I thought the
fumes and
scenes were
everything.
very sort of graphic, the way they would inhale.
Yeah,
Incredibly invasive.
So, like,
I think
brutal.
that's what he was saying though.
Yeah.
The bit with the little
director.
boys, like, are you going to hurt me? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was quite stand out for that. I thought it wasn't at all afraid of just
No.
kind of, like you say, dealing with kids in quite a brutal way.
Yeah.
And so that really made their malevolence quite acute. You thought,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is pure addiction. They're willing to go absolutely
Yeah.
anywhere.
And also it made it of now, I felt.
Yeah,
Whereas when in the beginning when she's first sees the child,
Yeah.
Violet or whatever,
Yeah.
and I thought, oh, this is a vampire trope, and I'm not sure that this will
Yeah.
work with
No,
The Shining.
no.
But then when I realised it was far more than a vampire trope in the way that it worked.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
But yeah, I just realised they only did take it from people that had The Shining.
Right,
Because
that's
the little
right,
girl, she's
yes.
like, you're a bit magic too,
Yeah.
aren't you?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also really wanted to say that I thought that the girl was amazing in it.
I didn't, again, if I'm honest, I found the connection between her and Ewan McGregor a bit creaky. You know, when they met on that sort of park bench in the middle of that village, there were a few narrative moments that I just thought were a bit weak or a bit obvious.
Yeah.
And then, am I right in thinking there were scenes of her flying through the sky and stuff like
Rebecca
that?
Ferguson flew
Yes.
to the house. Yeah, but so at first I thought that was really badly done and kind of cringy looking. Then there was something I quite liked about how bad it looked. It was kind of retro.
Yeah.
I quite liked the effect of it looking quite rubbish.
Yeah.
Because I thought it kind of added because if you think about it, if The Shining, the previous one, had done something like that, it would have looked really bad, wouldn't it? They would have been badly edited onto this big.
Yeah.
And it kind of, in a way, I thought it worked. It just looked like a kind of indie film where it's some weird special effects stuff.
Yeah, and also, again, because she was so committed.
Yes.
So all the time, I mean, she's flying around the universe and one can think, oh yeah. But then the moment she was on the ground and the moment she realised that there was another person out there who threatened her, that was great. Then the story really took off, didn't it? Because she was scared.
I thought that scene wasn't good though. I thought it went too far when she was in the little girl's house and she put it was horrible when she put her hand in the file cabinet thing and her hand got stuck.
Oh, wow.
And then she kind of walked towards her, the girl walked towards her with no eyes and this like blue wig, and I was like, this
I
is
thought they were
Coraline.
that was Oculus, wasn't it? I think he made Oculus, the director. It was a bit like that, wasn't it?
Good, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was I got Coraline vibes.
Oh,
And
right, yes.
Okay.
I just thought it was a bit, I just thought it was very what I don't like about most
Right.
mainstream horror
Right.
films now, when it's just ridiculous supernatural stuff that doesn't even scare
Yes.
you. It's almost laughable.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt.
It was
That's
an
kind
odd
of the
scene.
only
It was
scene
an
which
odd
I thought
scene.
went
I mean,
too
it was
far.
gory and it was
They
horrible.
had to do something though to show her power, didn't they?
No, but I just think it could have been. It didn't have to have the blue hair and the.
No,
And
I
all the
agree.
filing cabinets
I
as well
agree
was a
about
bit
that.
strange. It was a
Yeah.
bit Beetlejuicy, wasn't it?
I love the filing cabinet, so it must have been librarian in me. But I love that, and the fact that it took some skin off.
Yes.
And she sort of.
I liked that. It just stayed with
I thought
that.
Rebecca Ferguson really played well the threat that she was under, the
Yeah.
idea that she wasn't impervious and you know that she, oh my God,
Yeah.
there's people out there who are more powerful.
Yeah.
I got a little bit frustrated, and this is a spoiler review, I got a little bit frustrated as her entourage seemed to be dispensed with rapidly in a shootout scene. I thought they threw away. I mean, I loved the way in which their bodies went away. I thought the special effects were really good.
Yeah,
I thought
especially
it was
the old man. They gave the old man quite a
the
long
old
time.
man's
Yeah.
death, that was brilliant. I just thought we threw away a lot of quite rich I thought within the group we were going to sort of explore them a bit more, and I really liked the old guy, and when he died and you thought, oh my God, you know, you could see the look on all their faces of if this isn't forever. And the young girl that they'd found in the cinema, when she said, but you said this was
forever.
I liked all that, and I thought that was really, it was almost like there was another film to be made about just then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
But
That's weird. I didn't get bothered by the shootout scene. I
Did
thought
you
it was
not?
quite good.
But also, I didn't either, and part of that was the fact that her sidekick, the
Yes.
main sidekick, I felt was being brought to the fore in
Right.
terms of storytelling.
The sort of American Indian actor.
Yeah,
he was
and-
incredibly good.
He was.
Yeah,
So it's very much a film in 3 acts. You've got the sort of first act, the setup, you know, Ewan McGregor, the whole Dr. Sleep, alcoholism, blah. You've got the middle section, which is kind of Rebecca Ferguson and the immortal vaping vampires
girl.
discovering that they're kind of,
Yeah.
are they immortal, can they, how do they, all that.
Yeah.
And then the final part of the film
Is the whole being
is us returning back to the hotel of
Yeah.
the original film. Now, as we got to this sequence, I knew what we were going to, I kind of knew what I was going to get.
Yeah.
And I was sort of resisting my feeling that I was thinking, okay, now we're going to we're traipsing in Kubrick's footsteps here.
Yeah.
And has what we've seen so far dignified such an
Yeah, I
entry
know
into
what
this
you're saying,
hotel?
yes,
Have we
yeah.
seen? Has it been respectful enough? Has
Yeah.
what we've seen been sophisticated and classy enough
Yeah.
to justify opening the doors, going into this hotel, and revisiting
Yeah.
the magnificence and magic of Kubrick's original?
Yeah, just to be
must
clear
be
for people at that point is that the Ewan McGregor character takes the girl there to show
Yeah.
her, but he's going there because he knows that that's the only thing that can possibly scare.
Well, because he said, it's dangerous for people with The Shining, so
Yeah.
it must be
Yeah.
dangerous.
So yeah, it's
Exactly.
a kind of honey trap.
Yeah,
He's taking
exactly.
the whole
Honey trap.
story there in order to entrap
Yeah.
Rebecca
This
Ferguson.
this must have been such a stressful thing for the director to.
Yes,
because,
that's a good point.
The responsibility you must
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
for making this live up to everyone's and live up to The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must have been so.
Not just stressful for the director, but quite challenging, and I'd have thought for the
So
actors.
with
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor walking around the set.
Yes.
That must
Yeah.
have been like.
Especially, I mean, because they had flashback moments where where they recreate the scene of the axe coming through the
Yeah,
door, and you see the
identical.
new actress as Shelley Duvall.
Yeah, and that really worked.
Yeah, it worked well.
Yeah.
And so gradually, almost step by step, as you went into the kind of engine room of the heaters and all that stuff of the hotel, I was convinced. I bought into it. I was surprised. How did you find the whole negotiating the hotel? Because what he was clearly doing there was a homage as much as anything else.
Absolutely, yeah. I totally was with him.
Believed
it. Absolutely.
And the way Ewan walked through the corridors is very like a bit in The Shining. Where Jack Nicholson's walking through all of the corridors as well. So I thought it was really accurate, and it must have been, oh my god.
And appropriate. It felt appropriate. Did it feel appropriate to the plot? Because I couldn't work out, are we just here rinsing something for the sake of it?
I could have thought that, like, in the film, because it is very much like three different bits.
Isn't it? Very, very.
It could have been very but they kind of managed to blend in together somehow. But that's why I totally believed the whole bit of the hotel as well.
I think I was kind of surprised by how eerie I found it all again. It really genuinely felt, and I think what was quite clever about doing it is that thing of when I was a child, I used to play a lot on derelict kind of sites, and you'd peel back the what's it called? The corrugated iron. We'd go on site and you'd be in these houses. And that idea of revisiting old places and getting that sense of nostalgia, it was weird because as we went into the hotel and we started to see the shots, I was being taken back to the nostalgia and the dereliction of my movie-going experience. And it was like I was wandering through my own memory. It was a very strange experience because those shots are so emblematic. They've become so part of the mainstream and so part of our kind of filmic understanding of things. That as we were wandering around, I felt like I was coming home in a creepy sort of way. Weird.
Yeah, because then obviously Rebecca Ferguson follows them and she comes into the house. And I thought that was really good. She looked really menacing because she knew where she was. But then obviously she steps into the room where it's like all work and no playmates. Boy, and you can see the typewriter. With the chair that's still like on the floor. And I loved the bit where she's walking up the stairs to Ewan McGregor like Jack Nicholson did to
doing the hands.
Shelley did. Like that.
And that could have been really. I thought
cheesy in a way.
Everything about that screams it should be cheesy. And yet
but I think again
it
it's
wasn't.
about the actors completely committed.
They were.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And I loved her line where he goes, you know, aren't you the last one? And she goes, oh honey, I'm not the last one. I'm just the prettiest.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
It gave us some good lines.
I mean, I have to say, I think Rebecca Ferguson provided a much needed, absolute rock-like anchor to a side of the film that under in anyone else's performance or hands could have fizzled like a balloon. And I thought I think a towering performance from Rebecca Ferguson.
They gave us some of the tropes from the original film, say like the blood, the twins, whatever, and she almost like smiled and wry smile as those things happened. She could cope with all of those.
I loved the red rum, the blood.
The blood coming out of the elevator. And it does, you know.
And the old woman coming out of the bathroom.
I mean, a couple of reviews have said this is that this diminishes the original, that this sort of, by even being made, was it necessary? And I do get frustrated with this idea of, is it necessary? Nothing's necessary.
No.
Nothing's, you could have argued at the time, is it necessary to make a film of a great book? You know, no, it's not necessary. No, The Shining wasn't, none of this is necessary, but the film that's placed in front of you, for what should have been an absolute, in my mind, an unmitigated mess. I mean, everything about this screamed out should be a mess. You know, going back, retreading the footsteps, having Ewan McGregor, breathing stuff out. I mean, I was so not convinced by the trailers.
Going in, I was just like...
I was thinking this is going to be a load of old shite. I thought it completely wrong-footed me.
There's a big strand in the film as well, which we haven't talked about, which is the physicality of death, which again I think ties into the... to maybe the drug taking thing where I don't know if you remember, but before the shootout scene, the American Indian guy talks about having killed a buck and the smell stayed with him forever. And
even though you could never find the body.
No, and the boy, which we've already spoken about, was so graphic. Because I thought, in a sense, the film for me was a lot about addiction and in terms of drugs and alcohol, and in terms of what that can do to bodies, as opposed to, if you like, in inverted commas, an easeful death, which was the Dr. Sleep character who takes people into death in a way that is not drug-addled or all of the things that the
Yeah.
drugs are. I thought, in a sense, if one had to make a connection between the two halves of the film, it was that.
That taking the last vestiges of life out of things was really real and visceral.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I thought that the film lost it towards the end.
Right.
Oh.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think in a weird way.
And when he gets possessed, I just thought it was all a bit like.
Yes.
Oh, that particular thing, when he gets possessed, I would agree with
Well,
that.
and there is a scene where Ewan McGregor is essentially walking and talking as if he's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And I thought that
With
didn't
the act,
need
so
that.
step too
I thought we'd
far.
done enough by going into the same space and echoing the previous shots.
Yeah.
But for him to then echo the actual performance of Jack Nicholson, I thought was unnecessary.
I did too, but I think that's really says more about the fact that the director didn't know how to end it.
Well, and also I did think that...
I thought it could have ended when Ewan McGregor was in the fire as a little boy with his mum.
Yes.
Could
Oh,
have
and of
just been
course...
bold with the ending.
Was he
in the
dead?
fire.
Was he?
Yeah, he died.
he was because he was then the ghost that she was going to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
If you know what I hated, you know what I hated about that was a bit Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Literally, and he was Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
he was.
His eyes
Yoda
were
hovering at the end of
Yeah,
the
they become this little ghost hologram.
And I have to say, I thought that was one of the weakest tropes, and yet I can see why they almost had to have it, but that communicate. Well, I don't know. I found that a bit nonsensy. So should we sum up?
Yes.
And give our scores. Do you want to go first, maybe?
I really wanted to like it.
Yeah.
Because I love The Shining.
And we were all desperate for a good horror, weren't we?
Because it's Halloween, I was just like, come on, let's do a good horror film. But before going in, I was really worried, and I was going in expecting to hate it and it being really rubbish. So that's why I think I was quite surprised, because I went in expecting something terrible, and I'm always open to having my mind changed, unlike some movie reviewers.
Peter Bradshaw.
I don't care.
Yeah, Peter Bradshaw. You've prejudged every film you've ever reviewed before you've seen it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I was really pleasantly surprised, and I was really happy that Ewan McGregor gave a good performance.
Yeah.
Because, like we've said, you're always never too
Never
sure
Yeah.
if he's going to get bored of the part.
Yeah.
And I thought Rebecca Ferguson was absolutely brilliant.
I
Her
did.
character could have been so cliche.
Oh, utterly.
Her whole storyline could have been really cheesy.
Yeah.
And because she gave it a 100% and was confident with her
I agree.
storyline, it was really good. I thought every now and then there was the odd supernatural scene, which I hate when horror films feel like they have to be scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when they have to be supernatural, because then they just end up not scaring me. It's all the psychological stuff that scares me the most. That's why I find The Shining quite so eerie.
Yeah.
And so I was disappointed with all the supernatural bits, but I expected that. I was expecting more of that than we got. But there were the odd supernatural bits that I loved, like the woman in the bed with him and the baby. I thought that was so disgusting.
I thought that was a nod to Trainspotting, actually.
And I did think all of the old woman was overused. But I did also love them going back to the hotel and then redoing all of the classic shots, like the blood coming out of the lift. And I don't know, I just felt like every performance and every actor in it knew what they were confident with what they were doing and committed to the film.
Yeah, I
the
agree.
film was good because of the performance.
Yeah.
I think I probably give this a 7.5.
Interesting.
And I also really loved all of the bits with the people dying. I thought it was a really nice sentimental
respectful
touch to put to a horror film.
And I thought the performances were amazing, committed, and also just an extra shout out, if you like, to the guy who played her sidekick.
Yeah,
because he comes into his own more.
He really
towards
does.
the end, and he was great. He needed to be.
It wasn't a tall arch. It was so subtle.
Yeah, very
That
subtle.
scene in the van when he's
When he
looking
kept
back.
looking-
So subtle.
And you sort of I know that the book was written long after The Shining, and I thought maybe it was an afterthought on Stephen King's part, so in that sense. But I thought the way that, and whether it's, I haven't read the book, but whether it's like this in the book or whether the director made it like this, that contrast between, it was clearly a sort of an allegory or to do with addiction.
I thought it was quite a rich allegory about alcoholism and addiction. And I think go on again.
And even having sort of people like Ewan McGregor, who we know from Trainspotting, and whether you know, and bits set in the 12
There's a shot of him vomiting down a toilet.
Exactly. And I mean that for example, that scene, as we've said, is so graphic. It's what happens, but it's graphic. Some people would say, well, there's no need to show that much. I felt there was, in a sense.
Is Stephen King in recovery?
I think he is.
There's another film of his, and I'm trying to remember it. There's another book film that he did and all of the things within the film are due to his addiction. And
Yeah.
See, you might get bored of the amount of times we mention addiction on our channel, but I tell you what, most interesting people are addicts.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of that, I thought it melded the two sort of. Like Maddie, I loved the idea of respectful deaths.
Yes.
Which sounds a weird thing to say in a mainstream film, that you're going there to sit there and watch.
Subject,
but they managed to do that really well.
Right.
And Ewan McGregor was great in that, and the screenplay. So altogether, I really liked it. And the ending was weak, but then endings are often weak. I don't think he knew what to do. So, and I would give it a 7.85.
Wow, that vital 0.35 more than Maddie.
Exactly.
7.85, I do love those scores, that's great. You don't even know what decimals are, do you?
No, not really.
Yeah, I went into this really cautiously. I think The Shining is an absolutely, masterpiece. That it's very dangerous to kind of even go step towards it.
Yeah, I respect the director.
Yeah,
just doing
yeah.
it.
I mean,
Yeah,
God, you've
yeah.
got to have the courage of your convictions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting you should mention Stephen King's writing the book, because you could argue. It'd be interesting to know whether the book was written as quite a cynical exercise by Stephen King to do a sequel to a book that was an absolute masterpiece by him.
Yeah.
So, would that carry through? Then add to that Ewan McGregor. So, I've said already, Ewan McGregor really surprised me. But where I was really surprised by Ewan McGregor was he convinced me throughout. But I found him extra convincing, which I rarely have done in almost anything I've seen him in those really tender scenes with the old people in the old people's home. I thought that was a really magical little island of stuff.
Yeah.
Which was critical, as you say, Maddie, was because that's where the name and title of the film comes from.
Yeah.
The cat and him and those old men, those two performances by those old men were really quite something. The fear and then the letting go-ness of death.
Yeah.
I thought this idea of the exhalation of the soul from everyone who died, or anyone who died, was quite magical, and it made me really think about life and death, and us having lost people close to us in recent years, and having been next to them in one instance. It really made me think about death as something that we as living people can learn from, that death can be a gift.
Yeah.
That whole kind of stuff. I thought it was
an easeful death. It's a great quote.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said it many times. Rebecca Ferguson, for me, in a weird way, more than anyone else in this film, validated otherwise creaky narrative decisions and parts to the story.
She went for it.
She really went for it, but as did her colleague, I've lost his name and my computer's gone down, but as did the actor from Fargo alongside her. They both gave real substance to a hippie commune desperate for immortality because of their essential vaping vampiric crack addiction, and they were sucking it out of people. I thought they did it malevolently, but I thought they did it in a way that was believable and understandable. Yeah, absolutely. And I just thought that was really rich, and I thought that was well dealt with. And I almost felt like you could have a spin-off film that looked at that. I thought there's something quite rich and interesting in that. And I thought that 80% of what they did in the hotel worked when they weren't trying to absolutely slavishly, in personality and in character motivation, do what Jack Nicholson did. I think when he was walking with the ex, I thought right down to even emulating the shots and the moves. I liked that because, as I just said, it felt like a nostalgic journey home to my own film experiences of young. So I really enjoyed that. So I was pleasantly surprised. I was really pleasantly surprised. I do think the ending was a bit bungled. I do think that the kind of the dead people coming is a bit of a, I just find that so, it's weak. When you've got so much invention elsewhere, you sort of think, why, could you have not found another way around that? I think it's obvious that critics are going to just do a straight like-for-like comparison, and you can't compare this to The Shining.
No.
But in terms of what it set out as its mission and what it set out to do, I think it's probably an incredibly proficient representation of the book that Stephen King wrote, Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
So, but I'm bang on with you, Maddie. That was the same number I was thinking as you said it. I'm going to give it 7.5.
Okay. Yeah. And let me just say something very quickly as an ending to all of this, is that I knew, unlike you two, that it was going to be really good. And do you know how I knew? No. Because I have the ability to shine.
Do you?
That's the end. You have to end it there.
Do you have the ability to shine?
Yeah.
Speak in my head right now.
That's the end of that.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.